two best friends tell you about a story in history, and we are not equipped to do so. I am Emileigh, and this is Morgan.
Hey!
Hey, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I am sore as a motherfucker.
Oh no. What happened?
We spent all weekend on a floating house. And not only, floating houses in, the only way to get to it is via boat.
Mm-hmm.
So we stayed, some friends of ours have a floating house on Norris Lake. I would say that's doxing us, but Norris Lake is so freaking big that didn't narrow down shit. They bought a second one so that when friends come in, the friends have a place to stay. So if we wanted to get between the floating houses, it was either take the boat or take the paddleboard that we just got. So I paddleboarded a lot. And one time my daughter got hungry and the food was on the other floating house. So I convinced her to get onto the paddleboard, which she was refusing to go onto, but her hanger got the best of her. Mm-hmm. So then I ended up paddling us back on this paddleboard with a sobbing 5-year-old between my legs. People were laughing. It was a sight to behold. She was like that kind of cry.
Oh, bless her.
I was like, you've been swimming in this lake. What is wrong with you?
She didn't want to fall in, I guess.
She didn't want to fall in. I'm like, the worst that'll happen is you get wet again. You're fine. And then we did a lot of surfing. And I was helping teach other kids who are 9 and under. They have 4 kids, how to surf, which turns out takes a lot of muscles as well. Mm-hmm. So I think mostly the paddleboard is why my butt muscles hurt.
You're clenched up, keeping your balance.
Try not to dump the screaming child. But it was a lot of fun. We ate some really good food and had good company. And when we got off the boat, we realized that the not moving ground feels like it's moving. Oh, yeah. So we went to go pick up my dogs at my parents' house. And the whole house is just looking like it's all... I was like, well, honey, we need to go. I can't look at this house anymore. It's moving.
You still had your sea legs.
Yes. How was your weekend?
It was nice, uneventful. Yeah. I got some new coloring books. That's really what I did all weekend. Was I just colored my new coloring books and watched Mythbusters.
Love that.
I've been rewatching Mythbusters as like a way to just kind of dig into the nostalgia of my childhood and also learn some things and laugh at the silliness of the show, and it just makes me happy. So
Mythbusters is underrated. I freaking love Mythbusters. And you learn stuff and they're funny. So
what's really funny is that today was my first day back at work. And we had this little game where we were reviewing stuff for our job, and they had myths, and we had to determine if it was plausible, confirmed, or busted in like the little looking like the little plate that they had.
Cute.
I was like, this is so ironic. So I'm literally rewatching Mythbusters, and they have like the little signs. I thought it was really cute.
Weird. That is super cute. One more story from this weekend, and I'll stop talking about it. But our friends didn't know of my slight arachnophobia.
Oh, slight.
Yeah. I've gotten better, okay? So we're sitting next to like their little fire pit they have. And one of our friends brings up a bucket, and he went, "Hey, look in here and I see that there's probably 8 inches of water in this bucket. And I look in there thinking I'm going to see a fish, because what else do I think it could be? We're on a lake, right? No, all I saw was a body. And I'm not exaggerating. The leg span. I mean, the spider was, for the audience, I don't know, 4 or 5 inches in like diameter, if you were to make a little circle. And I didn't know it was dead already. It had drowned in that water. I have never gotten out of a chair so fast in my life. I almost ended up in the river because there are no railings. I leaped. I went, oh no! And just...
I'm imagining like cartoon style, like your eyes like stretched to like a foot long, and you go, oh no.
So where I went like, fuck no. And I started gagging, and I was like, and he went, I didn't know. And I was like, it's okay, you wouldn't have. Like, I was like, it's so big. I was like, y'all have never seen such a genuine reaction from me. That was 100% fear that just took over my body.
So we know how Emileigh reacts now when she's very scared. She gags a lot.
Yeah.
And will jump up.
And run away. Or I stand there. Like, Nick tells me all the time, I just like, if he jumps out and scares me, I just stand there. I would be number 1 to die in a horror film, because
you just freeze.
Yeah, I'm the third F. There's fight or flight, and then there's me, which is freeze. So, like, it's one or the other. Apparently, I'm more scared and will flight when it comes to a spider and not a full-grown adult. I don't know why I'm like this.
My danger reaction is my brain just completely misfires, like, totally. Like, I'll never ever forget when I don't even know if I've told this story on the podcast before. I may have. But I was working at a restaurant and we had lit candles on all the tables. And I was serving a table and one of the customers' napkins caught on fire. And I just kept trying to take it from her. Like, please, ma'am, let me have the napkin that is on fire.
This napkin seems like it's offending you. Please let me get it out of your way.
Like, she just, like, dunked it in her glass of water. But I guess my thinking was like, oh, I should take care of this, not the customer. So I just kept, like, and she just kept, like, moving it away from my hand. Like, no, what the hell are you doing? I'm not giving you this flaming napkin. Because she had sense. And I was just like, no, ma'am, let me take care of that. I am your server for this evening.
Oh my God, that reminds me of a time we were at, I was a camp counselor, and the 8th grade, right? So me and a couple other camp counselors whom I will not name, were burning cardboard that evening, because why did the adults let the 8th grader camp counselors do this on their own? I will never know. But one of the my fellow classmates, who was a camp counselor, somehow almost caught a small tree on fire. And he was running around like a chicken with its head cut off and was trying to, like, I don't know, it looked like he was doing a folk dance trying to stomp this shit out. And because there was like a piece of cardboard laying on the ground, only half of it's like on fire because cardboard burns. It was that really thick kind that burns,
like the corrugated cardboard.
I made eye contact with him, picked up the cardboard, and just placed it in the burn pile while he's freaking out. And then I took I I don't know what I did. I guess I think it was just the bottom of the tree. This was a long time ago. We're old, okay? Bear with me. I just like calmly stomped it out and just looked at him. And I'm like, are you crying? What is happening right now? Like, are you good? Full panic attack. Just picked it up.
I know this is getting into like story hour, but that...
Yeah, I know, right?
I have one more story to share that reminded me of that.
Okay.
I had a car, you remember, Godzilla. Piece of shit car. Oh my god.
Car.
But that car was virtually indestructible. One time I set it on fire accidentally. Well, I didn't. So at the time the battery like just never stayed charged. So I would always have to have people jump me off. So I could like start my car and drive it. And I was about to go home for Thanksgiving. I was at college. And there was, like, one other person left in my dorm because almost everyone else had left. So I was like, hey, will you please help me jump off my car? I would really appreciate it. She's like, yeah, no problem. And I've been doing this for, like, months now at this point. I'm pretty proficient at, like, which cable goes where. I know what I'm doing. So I do that. And the cables catch fire. Because they're, like, Dollar General cables.
They're like, please, no more.
Yeah, we're done. So we both turn off our engines, thankfully, and then I don't have anything else to beat out. Thankfully, it's not a big fire. Most of the fire's like on the pavement now with like the melted plastic. So I just get my flip flop and I just beat the fire up with my flip flop. I still have those flip flops.
Oh my god! Do you know what the dumbest shit I've ever done with a car is? I drove from Knoxville to an hour away. This was when I did live in Athens. Without a battery in my Jeep. It was in the hatch. I had someone start it, so it got past the like initial starting, and then I just didn't stop the Jeep until I got home, and it was 3 a.m. Like, you could just run on alternator if you don't stop.
That was very impressive. I mean, I'm sure it helped at 3 a.m. that you didn't have to, like, stop at any lights or stop signs or...
No, it was very helpful. By the time that I got it to my parents' house, I, like, shut it off. I was shaking. I was, like, white because I'm like, what if no one is awake? If this thing fucks up, why did I do this? But I was so broke and it was so late, I couldn't, like, afford another battery. So I just went.
Well, you know what? You made it.
How did we, honestly, make it survive? Doing the dumb shit we did.
Still continue to do.
Yeah. TBD. Okay, let's actually get into this.
Yeah, it's been a minute, so yeah, let's do that.
Sorry, guys. It's 1922. Two men are sitting in a parlor in Highclere Castle in England, discussing business.
I'm telling you now, Howard, I just don't think there's anything left in the valley.
But there is. I can feel it. I know something huge is out there. I just need more time.
We've been digging here for years. There have been 9 tombs found by that American anyway. There is nothing left, my boy.
George, please, give me one more season. If I find nothing, I'll pay back in full for a wasted year.
You and I both know you can't afford that.
Yes, but I know more than anything I'll find what we've been looking for.
All right. One more season. And if it yields nothing, we're leaving the valley for good.
Thank you, sir. I know we will find King Tutankhamun. I just know it. Also, you reminded me of Malfoy, Draco Malfoy a little bit.
Scared Potter.
Scared Potter.
You're nothing but a Weasley.
So, okay, so I guess y'all figured out we're talking about King Tut today.
Woo.
Kind of. We're talking about Howard Carter, the man who found King Tut. And yes, we will get into a little bit of King Tut, but I don't want to bore y'all with stuff you already know, because I don't know about y'all, but we learned about King Tut in like elementary school.
Yeah, he was a young boy. He died of an illness, possibly, when he was young. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's easily Googleable and all that. But, I mean, Howard Carter gets overshadowed by King Tut's tomb, and there's a lot that happened that I was unaware of.
Okay.
Like, I just didn't, I guess didn't grasp the magnitude of all of the story behind this. So, before we get started, one fun little fact, because Morgan, I know you love fun facts, but
I do.
Highclere Castle, the castle that we mentioned in the skit, is the home of Lord Carnarvon, and he was the one that funded. We'll talk about him more later, but he was the one that funded this whole expedition or whatever. That castle is where they filmed Downton Abbey.
Oh, cool!
Isn't that cool?
That's
so
very
if you're ever
neat.
watching Downton Abbey, just know that the man that lived there was the reason we have King Tut.
Oh, neat.
Yeah. So, early life. Let's talk about him. So he was born May the 9th of 1874 in Kensington, London.
Ooh.
He is he's the youngest of 11 children.
Oh my God. That's so many.
Yep. So many. His parents were Samuel John Carter, who was an artist and illustrator, and Martha Joyce Carter. So 3 of his siblings had passed away at a really young age.
Oh.
Also, only one of those 11 kids were girls.
Oh, wow.
So there were 10 boys and one girl.
That's so many boys.
So many boys. And the daughter was not one of the 3 that passed away. Okay. So, he was actually a very sickly kid and spent a lot of time in Swaffham with family being like nursed. So he grew up kind of, I don't want to say sheltered. He got very minimal formal education, but his father helped him hone his artistic abilities. And these artistic abilities would really shine throughout the rest of his life.
Okay.
So he started going with his father to do commission work and stuff like that when he was a young man. And there was a nearby mansion owned by the Amherst family called Didlington Hall. And I can't think of a more British name. Also, it's called Didlington. Anyway.
Didlington.
It contained a sizable collection of Egyptian antiques. And this sparked Carter's interest. So Lady Amherst of Didlington Hall was Sorry, she's gonna laugh every time.
It's just such a little silly name.
I live in Didlington.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So Lady Amherst was impressed by his artistic ability, and she actually somehow, through all of this, the Amhersts were funding the Egyptian Exploration Fund, and this pretty much, she was so impressed by his artistic ability that she sent him to Egypt at the ripe age of 17.
Oh, wow.
Because a family friend, Percy Newberry, was on an excavation site, and they wanted him to help Newberry record the findings before they get weathered or stolen, damaged, things like that. So, at 17 years old, he went to Egypt, and this was in 1891, and he went to Beni Hassan, which was an ancient cemetery. And he, not only did he work really, really hard next to Newberry and did his techniques, he started kind of improving those techniques. The only formal training he had for this was he went to London to the British Museum for a few months before he went to Egypt so he could learn a little bit more about Egypt. That's the only training he had.
Oh, wow.
So keep that in mind.
Okay.
So he worked under Flinders Petrie in Amarna, which was the capital founded by Pharaoh Akhenaten.
Okay.
I'm going to do my best.
Doing a great job.
Akhenaten was King Tut's father.
Mm-hmm.
So, also keep that in mind. He did his drawings between 1994 what the
Time
fuck?
travel.
You know what? I'm gonna between 1894 and 1899, and he was drawing the sculptures and inscriptions and the terrace temples of Queen Hatshepsut and pretty much all of ancient Thebes.
That's really
but
cool.
But Carter did not like the way that they were just tracing the hieroglyphs and decorations and such and then filling them in with black. So he continued to do them the way that he was supposed to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
But on the side, he was adding his own artistic flair to them. He was painting them, coloring them, giving them greater detail. And I did see in one of the documentaries I watched that they held up one of his paintings next to the thing that he painted. They look identical.
That's really
it looks
awesome.
like they took a picture of it and put it on a piece of paper.
So one thing I've learned from my sister, who's an archaeologist, when she knew that she wanted to be an archaeologist and was wanting to go to school for it, she really practiced drawing and painting in a realistic way. And actually one of her it was a volunteer job that she did, is she painted fossils for a children's museum.
That's cool.
And was really practicing how to get the dirt looking right, how to look the bone looking right. But she told me is that you really need to have a skill drawing the artifacts that you find on an archaeology dig, because you can take pictures, but there's also things that you need to do to draw the dimensions of the artifact by itself, not with the environment around it, and drawing it to scale and drawing it with all the features on it. So an illustrator would be a great job for someone recording these archaeological artifacts.
Yeah, I think that it makes a lot of sense. Later on down the road, and we don't talk about this, so I'm not skipping ahead or anything, but when they were archiving all the things, they even drew, there were floral, wreaths laid on the body. They drew not just the wreaths, but how the wreaths were put together, and they were able to recreate them in the style that was, because those things just deteriorated. You can't, So, yeah, I could see a very big need for artistic talent on these digs, for sure. Pictures only do so much.
Mm-hmm.
So, while working for the Egyptian Exploration Fund, they discovered the quarry that supplied the stones for the tombs at Deir el-Bersha.
That's really cool.
God, they discovered so much shit. This was like peak discovery of, well, I guess not, honestly, because they are still finding things, an incredible amount of things. But like this is, when you think of searching for ancient Egyptian artifacts, you think of this time period.
Yeah,
late
like the
1800s,
Victorian
early 90s. Yes.
era. Yes.
I want to wear the garb and I want to go out there. Let me, please, someone fund this. That's all I've ever wanted.
I want to be Rachel Weisz from The Mummy. That's all I want.
I want the cast of The Mummy.
Yes.
Please. Okay. So, anywho, by 1983, the Amherst, unfortunately, were going to have to pull the plug because of funding issues. And they ended up having to sell Didlington Hall.
Oh no, not Didlington.
I know. So, he got a new job working for a guy named Neville. I could bore you with all the different things that he did. I will give you an overview because,
okay.
My God. So, while working for Neville, he worked on the temple of Hatshepsut, using his new techniques, because now he's not working for Newberry, who wanted him to use the old ways. But the downside is that he was really slow.
Yeah, all that detail takes a lot of time.
It does. So he picked up his iPhone and he called his brother. No, I'm just kidding. He sent for his brother, Vernet, because most of the siblings were artists as well. And was like, hey, I need your help. So Vernet comes and helped him copy and do the techniques. And so now there's two of them working. It's going smoothly. But at the end of the season, his brother refused to come back because he just couldn't cope with the climate.
It's hot.
It's hot.
It's Egypt. It's hot.
It's very, very hot.
It's desert.
So, oh my God. Yeah, that's the reason that there are digging seasons, is that the climate just gets too extreme between like the flooding seasons and the heat and stuff. That's why they only, and it depends. I did try to look up exactly what digging season in Egypt was, and it just varies by where you're digging at. But typically it's only about a 4-month span.
That's really not a long time.
No, it is not at all. And so after Vernet, Carter worked with a number of assistants over the next 5 years. So apparently his siblings would like vet these people and then send the good ones to him.
That's really funny.
For him. Yeah. And he also worked as the team's photographer. He was only 23 at this point in his life. What were we doing at 23?
Being stupid.
Yeah. Yeah, not on Egyptian dig sites, that's for damn sure.
No, not at all.
No. So in 1899, he was given the position of Inspector of Monuments for Upper Egypt in the Egyptian Antiquities Service.
Very cool.
Very cool. Let's see. Hold on. I want to see how old he was. I think that was probably still about 24 years old.
See, he was born in 1874?
1874.
So it would have been 25?
25, yeah. All right, math. Ma'am. So, God, could you imagine handing a 25-year-old this position?
No.
No. Okay.
Not a
Yeah,
25-year-old me, by the way. Like,
fair.
Like, me at 25, no.
No.
Obviously, he was right for the job, though.
Well, and what's wild to me is that he still has not had any official training.
Like, he's barely has an education at all, from what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. And he was like, well, I guess I'll just be really good at Egyptian things. But they didn't hire him just for how well he was doing. He also got along very well with the local populace, and he was meticulous, and he was very serious, and he oversaw the excavation and restoration in Thebes and supervised the exploration of the valley by archaeologist Theodore Davis. Theodore Davis is that American we mentioned in the skit today.
Okay.
He had not control, he had the permits to dig up the valley for a very long time. Okay. So he ended up digging up, I think, around 9. And that was before they found King Tut.
Okay.
So he also helped intercept a lot of stolen pieces because tomb raiders never stop.
Right.
And the Antiquity Service was also responsible for filling up the museum in Cairo. So they would recover these artifacts and put them in the museum.
Nice.
But it was really weird. I might mention it again later, but he also worked as like a private representative for when somebody wanted to buy an Egyptian artifact. So, because that wasn't illegal at the time.
Yeah, you just couldn't steal it, but you could.
You just couldn't steal
purchase.
it. You could buy it. So he worked as kind of like the go-between.
The liaison.
Yes, that's the word. Thank you. He also spoke the language, so he was like multilingual as well, which is very good cool. For him.
Yeah.
So what's really cool about this position is that the Antiquities Service funded him to go exploring in the Valley of the Kings on his own. So he decided to do that in 1902. He was like, well, I guess I'll just go dig for myself while doing this other job. And he was aiming for the very inaccessible area that was super rocky, kind of southeast of the Valley Basin. And within a few days, he did discover evidence of some stone steps, entrance, a corridor. He found a sarcophagus chamber. In just a few days, he had found Tutmos IV, which had like a cart and a couple furnishings still left in it, because a lot of these tombs were robbed in antiquity.
Right.
Which sucks. But, a find that big was huge.
Yeah, that's awesome.
If we found that now, that's huge. So, while digging in Tutmos IV's burial, he unearthed an alabaster cup with a small blue scarab with Queen Hatshepsut's name on it.
Oh, cool. Oh.
The following February, Super Cash just found Hatshepsut's tomb.
Oh my God.
I know. I know.
That's so awesome.
He's just like, I guess I'll just go on my own for a while. Bam, bam. Like,
Queen Hatshepsut.
Yes.
Wasn't she like the last Egyptian queen? Because Cleopatra was Greek.
Yeah. Who was the last Egyptian queen?
Or she was like the only female pharaoh or something like that.
I have to put not Cleopatra. I don't know. It keeps wanting to say Cleopatra.
Oh.
Was it Nefertiti?
It may have been. So when I googled female pharaoh, Hatshepsut is the first one that pops up, so.
Okay, so maybe she was the first one? Or one of the most famous? I don't know. She's one of the big ones, though.
Yeah. And she was the wife of Tutmosis II.
Okay.
According to Wikipedia.
And I think it was it Nefertiti that was King Tut's... Oh, it was Nefertiti that was King Tut's stepmother.
Ah, okay.
So he is the son of Akhenaten and another lady, but then Nefertiti's his stepmother.
Okay.
I would love to just dive into pharaoh family trees. We should do that one day.
Yeah.
Okay. So, anywho, he's found Hatshepsut.
That's so
wild. Awesome. And to think that they're just... I just think it's wild that the only reason we know so much about ancient Egypt is because they valued death so much that they mummified and they told their story and then it just got buried in the sand. Like, wild. Like,
yeah.
Do you think they ever thought that we would be digging them up?
No.
Probably
they couldn't
not.
have conceived of that.
No.
They didn't even conceive of other Egyptians robbing their own tombs, you know? Like...
Yeah. Okay. I'll stop having a mental freak out now. Okay.
No, it's okay.
So
it's okay.
in 19...
I'm right there with you.
So in 1904, there was a dispute between local people over tomb thieves, and he was transferred to Lower Egypt. So Upper and Lower Egypt inspectors swapped. I don't know if like he just does a better job or if the altercation involved the person that was over Lower Egypt and he just needed to go to a different... I don't know. Whatever. But he made improvements and protections and made the accessibility to the sites better. And during this time, he created the grid block system that they pretty much still use for searching for tombs. I mean, it makes sense. Instead of just randomly picking an area that, like, oh, we've already tried this square. Let's move on.
Yeah. No, I mean, and it makes it so it can stay organized.
Yeah.
Cool.
So, in 1905, Carter unfortunately had to resign from the Antiquity Service.
Aww.
After a formal inquiry into what became known as the Saqqara Affair. And the Saqqara Affair was a confrontation between some French tourists and the Egyptian site guards. They got in a fight over something stupid like candles being refunded.
Oh.
Literally, it was something that stupid. And then, apparently, this is what I heard. Don't come at me, France. The French literally tried to beat up the Egyptian site guards.
Oh, no.
And then, yeah. And then Carter ended up having to, like, go get state officials or whatever to, like, come and break up the fight. No one died. But they were a big stank. French was like, you need to apologize. And the British were like, no. And Carter was like, no, even though he was asked to apologize. So they like minimized his job. And he was like, fuck off. I'm not
shitty.
apologizing. It's just all shitty. They were, okay. So apparently France and Great Britain were in like this weird pissing contest over Egypt at the time for like control and stuff like that. So, fucking politics ruins everything, I'm telling you. So, he ended up moving back to Luxor, which is where he had been before when he was in Upper Egypt, and just kind of didn't have a job for 3 years.
Oh, cash. It happens.
Yeah, he'd do like commission work for painting and stuff like that, but he was finding himself, Morgan.
Yeah.
He just lived in fucking Luxor for 3 years and just living life.
Just chilled. Yeah. That's fine.
I only hate it because I'm jealous. So, and I think he did some freelance work as well. He did some freelance work for Theodore Davis. So he was still active in the dig sites.
He just didn't have like a long-term employed position.
Right. He didn't have official employment. And then he continued to work as like a liaison for people wanting to buy Egyptian artifacts. He was making a living. He was fine.
Yeah.
So this next section I've got called Back in the Saddle. So in 1907, he began his association with the 5th Earl of Carnarvon.
Ooh.
That sounds so... His name was George Edward Stanhope Molyneux Herbert. So many names.
That's a lot of names.
It might be Malinois. Fuck if I know. So sorry.
Like the dog? Malinois?
No, it's Molly. Moly.
Oh.
Neux?
Huh?
Molyneux?
I think the EAUX makes an O sound.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. Okay, for the sake of this episode, and I will say, every single source that I found referred to him as Lord Carnarvon or just Carnarvon.
Okay.
So,
That's
forget
like
his
title.
name is George. I ended up having to Google that later because no one actually said his name. They just said Carnarvon. So, he is Lord Carnarvon.
That's how earls and like the higher up nobility in Britain work. Like you lose your name, you're just your title from here on out. Like even your wife becomes your title. So.
Oh yeah, she was Lady Carnarvon.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds horrible. Anyway, not here to judge, but Carnarvon. So, he was a collector of antiquities, and he wanted to start digging in Egypt. Because why not?
Why not?
Unfortunately, the Antiquities Service didn't just want a bunch of random rich people digging around in Egypt unsupervised. Which is fair. Totally fair. So, Carnarvon sought out Howard to supervise the excavations, and that way he could get the permit and do all the things with an expert there. And they ended up becoming close friends. So, Lady Burclear, who was Carnarvon's sister, quoted, "For the next 16 years, the two men worked together with varying fortune, yet ever united, not more by their common aim than by their mutual regard and affection."
Cute.
So they really, I know.
They're BFFs.
They were besties. So, they got to work, and in 1914, Lord Carnarvon got the go-ahead to dig in the Valley of the Kings. Now, I know they started working together in 1907. Those years in between, they were working in other sites, but it took them that long to get the go-ahead to dig in the Valley of the Kings because Theodore Davis, who had already, like I said, discovered 9 tombs in the valley, was like, you can have my sloppy seconds. There's nothing else to find in here.
Uh-huh.
So he finally released the permit to let other people excavate there And Carter and Carnarvon, like, scoop that bitch up. They're like, let me have that. I know something else is in there that you're missing. So they were looking for Tutankhamun because they had seen, they'd heard of him. He wasn't completely forgotten, and they thought that he was there. But a little thing got in the way in 1914. Do you want to tell me what that was, Morgan?
Was it World War One?
I think it was World War One. Yeah. Kind of got in the way of everything, didn't it?
Yeah.
So all the episodes come together. So
history is intertwined.
It is. So he ended up spending the war years working for the British government as a courier and a translator. He never saw, I don't think he ever saw war service. One source said, we can't really be sure exactly what he was doing, but he did do things to help the war effort.
And he didn't see, active combat.
No, I do not believe he did at this point.
Look at him.
I know.
You do a man with his mustache and his bow tie.
This man was made for digging in the sand, not for...
And drawing pictures.
Combat. And drawing pictures, yeah. I'm sure... I know. I'm sure that they could find... With his knowledge of the language, of the people, of the customs, I'm sure they could find more useful ways than putting a gun in his hand and sending him to combat.
Yeah.
So when the war ended in 1917, he just swan dove back in, going in.
Into the sand dunes.
Woo! Oh my God, that
Scrooge
one hurt so bad. Yep. And excavations in the Valley of the Kings between 1920... They found a few things between 17 and 20. The years between 1920 and 1922 were kind of a bust. They were not very profitable. Mm. And even between after the war up until 22... Carnarvon was getting a little disheartened. He was like, I don't think maybe Theodore's right. Maybe there isn't anything left in the Valley of the Kings. So in 1922, Lord Carnarvon, which this is our skit, was like, we're done. I'm not going to pay for you to keep doing this.
Just sinking money into
wads of money. Yeah.
Yeah.
Carnarvon agreed. Well, he was like, he's like, I'm not going to do this. Carter said, I know that they're there. Give me one more year. One more year. That's all I'm asking. If I don't find anything, I'll pay you for this year. But just give me one more year. Carnarvon was like, fine. And so they went back out. Cue Eminem's Lose Yourself. You got one shot, not miss your chance to blow.
This opportunity comes once in a lifetime.
Once in a lifetime. Yeah, okay. So, what is wild to me is that he's got 1 year left. He pointed out a spot near some worker huts and told Carnarvon, it's at the foot of this hill. I'm going to look right here. What's around the workers' huts had not been excavated at all. So we'll start there. So, we're going to pause. We're going to talk about King Tut for a minute. So, who was King Tut? He ruled in ancient Egypt from about 1333 to 1323 BCE. And he became king when he was 9 years old. Because his father, Akhenaten, had passed. I don't know if it was from natural causes or not, but he passed.
It was thousands of years ago. Who knows?
God knows, yeah. So Akhenaten had changed the religious beliefs from the thousands of gods, it was like 2,000 gods that the culture believed in, to worshiping one sun god named Aten, Aten. So most people didn't like the change, but they had to go along with what the pharaoh said, or at least pretend to. And after Akhenaten died, King Tutankhamun took the throne. Except his name wasn't Tutankhamun, it was Tutanakhaten. Tutanakhaten. Yeah. So when he took the throne, he actually changed his name to Tutankhamun to get rid of that one sun god, like, part of his name.
Okay.
Because he took it back to the multi-god. He went back to the old ways, like, immediately. So it's really weird for me to think about a 9-year-old doing that. Right? Like,
yeah, no, it's
having the wherewithal.
I wonder if he was like, if it was suggested to him by like adults that didn't agree with his dad.
He did have an advisor named A-Y. So he ruled for 10 years and he died at the age of 19. So experts aren't sure of his death. They don't know if it was caused by an injury in a chariot crash, mosquito bite-borne illness, bone disease, combination, any of that. But he didn't leave behind any children, so the throne went to his advisor, and I just feel like that's a little suspicious.
I know I've seen things about King Tut, and people are like, was he poisoned by his advisor? Which, I mean, again, this was thousands of years ago. There's a whole mummifying process that literally got rid of all of his organs, so there's not like we could, like, check things, you know?
Right. And I did watch a documentary, which was very interesting, that talked a lot about the more political things that were going on at the time, and what his wife did after he died, and how I did kind of weasel his way into the spot. And it does make sense that could have happened.
Mm-hmm.
But also, his mummification wasn't very well done, which almost, because it wasn't very well done, they're like, was he just hunting and was fatally shot and they couldn't get him back in time? Or, you know, what?
Yeah. I've seen things where, like, people suspect it's, like, he broke his toe and, like, the foot infection caused sepsis and that's what killed him. Or, like, a tooth infection. Like, we really have no idea.
The world was actively trying to kill everyone at any given time at this time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could look at a tree wrong and die. Like, It just, who knows? I did think that sounded like every movie plot ever, though, that the young king, the boy king dies and his advisor just happens to take over. It's sus. It's sus. So, most pharaohs' tombs at the time were really cut deep into the bedrock and contained multiple rooms, which his did contain 4 rooms. But it was very, very small, and it was a very hilly area, and some experts think that in the process of building himself a tomb, because that's what they did. You became pharaoh, you started building yourself a tomb very young, and then if the longer you lived, the more lavish it becomes. Because you just continue to work on it.
Yeah.
Well, the workers think that he just died so young that's why there's like blank walls in his tomb. But others believed that I actually swapped tombs with King Tut. So I, as the advisor, would still have a very lavish tomb. But then he's like, oh, well, we'll put King Tut in this one and I'll take over the bigger one.
Yeah. And
because I ended up did end up having a bigger one. They did find it. So
makes sense, yeah.
Who knows? Either way, it was a very rushed process. There were spots of mold found on the walls that pretty much indicated that when they sealed it up, the paint was still wet when they sealed it up because it was so rushed.
So they just kind of like threw them in there and were like, bye. See you never.
See you never. So, all the predecessors wanted to just forget Akhenaten, and that also included King Tut, because he's Akhenaten's son, even though he turned it back around, which I feel like it would have eventually anyway. But they wanted to get rid of any connection, so they scrubbed his name from everything and forgot about him. I mean, to the point that just 150 years later, workers built the tomb of Ramses the Sixth right on top of King Tut's tomb.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So they either forgot about it or wanted to like cover it up.
Yeah.
But also, I did watch a documentary, could not find it for the life of me. I also didn't have time to look too hard, but I think it's somewhere on like Disney Plus, like the National Geographic or something, that King Tut's tomb was so buried under rubble that because where it was built, it was under like a rocky ledge. So rocks would just fall on top of it and make it very difficult to find. So it just naturally got covered, and that's why it wasn't looted in antiquity.
Oh,
because it got
no one found
buried. Yeah. If you can find that documentary, somebody please send it to me, because I do want to watch it again. But it does make a lot of sense. So while Carter and them are looking for all these other places and kind of looking for King's Tut, they found a cup, a jar, some linen, all with King Tut's name on it. So they're like, ooh, he's around here somewhere.
Okay.
But we don't know where.
Yeah.
So on November the 3rd, in 1922, just 3 days after making the initial, start of the investigation, a water boy, they had already, by November 3rd, they had moved the hut, the workers' hut, and a water boy just happened to stumble on something. And that something was a stone step. 3 days in.
Wow.
He tripped, poor guy. And then by the following afternoon, they had dug the entrance. So they just kept digging. And it was like, oh, there's another step and another step and another step and another step. They found the entrance and the seal was intact.
Oh my gosh. 3 days in. Wow.
Oh, could you imagine? So the stairway, this is wild to me. They had to recover it up on the 6th. And then someone again picked up their iPhone. Hey, Carnarvon. Sent a letter or a telegram, however the fuck they did it.
They faxed a telegraph to him.
They could have at this point. Oh my God. They could have faxed him. So weird to me. So quote, "At last we have made a wonderful discovery in the valley, a magnificent tomb with seals intact. Recovered, same for your arrival. Congratulations, Carter." That's what he sent to Carnarvon.
Wow. Like, come on, I told you so. Get down here. Get your ass down
here. There were 150,000 tons of rock and debris that had to be moved to get to this tomb.
So
that's just a fun little fact thrown in.
You said that they had to recover it. I assume they didn't move all 150,000 pounds back, but they just covered the entrance so people didn't like sneak up on it, right?
Right. So to keep it secure until Carnarvon got there and they could open it up and see what was inside. So they prepped the site while Carnarvon and his daughter, Lady Evelyn, came to Egypt. So on November the 24th, it took them like a month to get there.
Wow.
The rubble was once again removed. And it took a couple days to get the debris and get the passage cleared. And then, this is like any movie. They opened a small hole in the door. And Carter like stuck his eyeball to it. And I'm sure, well, they needed to get a candle in there. So they had to like bigger than that. But they peered in. And Carnarvon said, quote, "Can you see anything?" And Carter said, "Yes, it is wonderful."
Oh, boy.
So, they were shocked to find, just find anything.
Yeah.
They found, I think it was like over 5,000 artifacts.
Wow.
In these rooms. Now, if you look at the picture, I know I've been like yakking it up, but here's where we're getting into pictures. The couple down, you see a graph of the tomb.
Yes.
Yeah. So there we go. You just keep an eyeball on that. So what is in the tomb? Carter would write later when he first opened it up, quote, "Details of the room emerge slowly from the mist. Strange animals, statues, and gold. Everywhere, the glint of gold." So King Tut is kind of known as like the golden pharaoh, the golden king, because there was so much fucking gold.
Because his tomb wasn't looted.
Yes. In the first room, there were 600 items.
Wow.
And I don't know how they know this. And I think it's because of just how everything was placed. You can see there's like a whole like chariots and stuff in there.
Yeah.
But everything was kind of in a mess. It was in a disarray. And they think at least twice ancient looters had broken in and kind of rifled through stuff and broken things. And then the guards would just like catch the people, kick them out, and then just like toss the shit back in there and then go on. And then eventually it got covered up and it never got looted again. So they do think it got looted in antiquity, but not to the extent that everything is gone.
Okay.
So 600 items in the first chamber. The burial chamber is really cool. So you see how it looks like there's layers?
Yeah.
That is the different layers of his like tomb.
Oh, wow.
So it had, first there were like 4 golden shrines, like nesting dolls. They're all like nesting dolls. So 4 big golden boxes, one inside the other. And then inside the last shrine was a very heavy stone sarcophagus. And inside that shrine was another set of like Russian doll, like 3 wooden coffins. And, well, the first 2 were gold. The third coffin was solid, the first 2 were wooden. The third one, the smallest one, was solid gold. How freaking heavy would that be?
He is not moving.
Yes. It was, actually, I have it right here. It's 296 pounds.
Just like the sarcophagus?
Just the one. Just the one gold coffin.
Wow.
And then his body was in that one.
Wow.
And you can see how tightly fit. I don't even know how they got it in there.
Yeah, no. They would have had to like build around it, you know?
Yeah. It's like, I think they built it outside and then were able to take it off in like sections.
Mm-hmm.
And then rebuild it. So then the treasury, that was just the antechamber and the burial chamber. Now the third room, the treasury, had a smaller shrine which contained King Tut's organs, the canopic jars, and it was like guarded by a statue of Anubis, who is the god of mummification and of the dead. That is the thing with like the dog head.
Yeah. The jackal.
Yeah. Thank you. And then the fourth room was the annex, and it had over 2,000 items.
Wow.
In it. So, some very unique things. Obviously, we can't go over everything that's in the tomb.
All 6,000 items.
Yeah, okay, buckle up, y'all. Hope you had a pee break. We're talking about everything. No, so it had a dagger made from what they think is a meteorite.
Oh, that's so
cool. The
cool.
blade is like meteorite, and it was found on the king's right thigh. It had plugging another Illiquid History episode, a sonnet board.
Oh, really?
Which, for y'all who haven't heard that episode, is like chess, almost.
An ancient Egyptian board game. Yes.
Golden sandals. And I'm calling these the golden petty sandals, because they were made from wood, overlaid with bark, leather, and gold. And the soles of the shoes depicted 9 traditional enemies of Egypt. That was done on purpose because then he would be symbolically walking on their faces all day.
Nice. I love that.
And I do have pictures of those.
I kind of wish I had enemies so I could get shoes where I could do that. Oh, I see them.
But here are pictures of like what the rooms looked like. I mean, literally just looks like they just tossed the shit in here.
Mm-hmm.
And then here's the like statues. They had to like break open the door because when they first walked in through that first antechamber, that door where the 2 statues are facing each other, it was walled off. They had to break the wall down to get to the burial chamber. And that was just a security measure. But they were afraid that there wasn't a burial in here, that it was just almost like a holding cell to keep artifacts safe in antiquity. But then when they saw the statues facing like that, they were like, oh no, that's significant.
There has to be something between these statues.
Right. And then if you go down a little more, you can see Carter opening the sarcophagi.
That's so cool.
And then you see, I've got a picture of the dagger, the sonnet board, the shoes.
Oh my gosh. You can still see the paint on the sonnet board. Oh my god.
Uh-huh.
These are beautifully preserved.
There are thousands. Like, I'm getting I want to throw up again. Like, oh my god. So.
You said he died in 1300 BC. Around that time, right?
Yeah. It was 1333 to 1323.
So that's like
15.
No. 35-ish. Almost 3,500 years ago. Oh my god. And you can still see like the little pieces of the sonnet board. And like the hieroglyphs on it. Oh my god. Oh my god.
They also had servants.
Oh.
413 Ushapti. And these Ushapti were about a foot tall figurines made from various materials. Had this been ancient Egyptians, they would be actual people who sacrificed their life to go to the afterlife with their pharaoh. But by his time, they didn't do that anymore. So they are just like representations.
This is so fucking cool. I mean, you can see the braids in the hair, and it has both thumbs, like the details on the fingers, and
I mean, look, you can see the wood grain, the paint on her face. His face is perfect. The gold necklace, the hook. I mean, the way arms are crossed, like it's.
This is so beautiful. Oh my god, I'm getting
I'm so
getting the chills? I'm just getting like it's not even the chills. It's like that nausea feeling. I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah. Do you know what else they found? Which had no idea would fucking survive this long? Clothes. His clothes. He had 100 pairs of sandals, 12 tunics, 28 gloves, 25 head coverings, 4 socks, which had separate pockets for your big toe so he could wear his petty sandals with them, 145 loincloths, which if y'all don't know what that is, that's basically underwear. And what's really funny is that they went into very specific detail. They said, quote, the weave of an ordinary Egyptian linen loincloth had 37 to 60 threads per inch. But King Tut's underwear had 2,000 or 200 threads per inch, giving it a cloth a silk-like softness. So he had that soft underwear. He had that good
Egyptian
underwear.
Cotton. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I thought that was really funny.
Cool.
But, like, it survived 3,000 years. Just... I can't get a dress to last 10. Like... What in...
That's so cool. Oh my god, I'm like getting overwhelmed by it a little bit. Like, I feel short of breath a little bit. This is so cool.
I was like trying to clean my house and listen to documentaries at the same time, and I ended up giving up on cleaning the house because I was sucked in. I was like staring at my laptop.
I can't stop looking at this Ushapti. Like, it's so beautiful.
Look, I know. And the fact that it's still, I mean, they carved out every finger, it's not just like
it's not like a little circle
that looks
for
like
a
person. Yeah. And there were 413 of those in there.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So, securing the tomb. Now what? We've opened this thing up, but we've also opened it up to anyone and their mama to come and, steal stuff. So, they did install electric lighting, and it was way ahead of its time in that when it comes to excavations and stuff.
Okay.
And they officially opened it on like the 27th. But it was claimed that Carter went in the night before and might have taken a few things for himself. I'm going to hold opinions about that because, damn it, he worked really hard. But, like, please don't steal the artifacts for yourself.
Yeah.
So, they had to, in December, so just a couple weeks later, they ended up closing the tomb again. So Carter could go to Cairo, get the things that he needed to close it up with, like, a metal gate and stuff to where it would be secure. So, on December 17th, they had ordered a steel gate. It got put into place. And now they're working. And they used the tomb of, I think it was Ramses. The one that was really close. Ramses the, like, 6th. To, like, they used his tomb as, like, a lab. Which I thought was really funny. They, like, set up a photo booth to like develop photos and stuff in that
funny.
tomb, and I was like,
well, from the diagram, it was probably a lot more spacious than this one, because this one did not have a lot of room at all.
No,
it's very small, especially when you think of like what most pharaohs were found as like being buried with. Like, he had a lot of items, but like the space was very small.
Tiny. Yeah. And it took them 2 months to clear out, I believe it was that first antechamber. 2 months. And they took pictures and painted the placements and map. He was so meticulous. And that's the only reason we know, like, where all that stuff went. Because how often did people just, like, dig up that shit and then they're like, well, I don't know where it went.
It's gone forever. Sorry.
My bad.
Yeah, that makes sense. If there was just 600 in the antechamber and they had to, like, draw and paint every artifact. Yeah, I can't imagine it didn't take more than 2 months.
Yeah. And they started running into issues because it was the 20s. Of course they did. Mm-hmm. So Lord Carnarvon, sold exclusive rights to the find to the New York Times in January of 1923 to recoup some of his money. Unfortunately, this alienated other news sources, especially the Egyptian ones. They're like, what the fuck? This is our shit, and you're not letting us even, like, report on it.
Yeah. The Egyptians should have access to it.
Exactly. So Carter and Carnarvon's relationship became kind of strained because of this during this time. And the opening of the tomb was scheduled for February of 1923. Like the kind of official grand whatever.
Okay.
For tourists and stuff. Because it is not, let's be clear, y'all. We think of an excavation site in 2024. We think it's closed off. We have a bunch of professionals here. And no one's allowed to come. If you want to see the artifacts, you're going to have to go to the museum where they are perfectly preserved. Or if you want to see the tomb, you have to be allowed to go. You have to get
clearance
hard
for it. Yeah.
It's hard to get into those rooms. Nah, people were just coming on in to look at shit. While they were actively trying to excavate, to document, to preserve all this shit, high society people were just like, woo, this is nice. Mm-hmm. Coming on through.
It doesn't surprise me at all, because, like, they did the same thing with, like, crime scenes. Like, active crime scenes where people would just, like, walk in and, like, take little pieces of the crime scene to keep. Like, it's just...
What the fuck? Weird.
Yeah.
Let the people do their jobs, okay? Yeah. So, they ended up taking a very short break in February, closed up the tomb, and it was mostly because poor Carter was exhausted. And also, there might have been rumors about Howard Carter and Lady Evelyn, Lord Carnarvon's daughter, having a little bit of a thing.
Oh.
But they reconciled, Carnarvon and Carter did, and they started work again the same month. They just took a very short break.
Okay. It's just like, I can't look at you anymore. I need time to cool down. Okay, we're cool again.
Yeah. Stop fucking my daughter. But, yes. So they focused then from the antechamber to the burial chamber. So now they're going on to room number 2. And it takes a little bit of a sad turn here. On March 14th, Carnarvon and Lady Evelyn, his daughter, went to Cairo to discuss with the Antiquities Service how much of this how it would get divvied up.
Yeah.
Because at this point, if you found it, it belongs to you to an extent. Yeah. So it has to be divvied up.
And he's funding it and, all that.
Yeah. So Lord Carnarvon apparently had been bitten by a mosquito.
Oh, no.
Which became infected after a razor cut.
Oh, no.
So it turned into blood poisoning and then pneumonia.
Oh, no.
On March 20th, Carter went to Cairo. He was bedridden by that time. And Carnarvon ended up passing away on April the 5th.
Oh, no.
Yeah. But his wife, Lady Carnarvon, retained the permit so they could continue to work on the tomb.
Okay.
So she was on board with all of it.
Okay.
So continuing to work. Now from this point, we're going to go by dig seasons. So dig season 1923. This is a year after they found it. So by then, Carter was a celebrity because news had broken out. He was invited to do lectures in Europe. So before the dig season of 1923, he went on a lecture tour and he was like, I don't know why you want me. I am not professionally trained.
He's not trained.
And they're like,
yeah.
Who are you kidding, my dude?
You found King Tut's tomb. Who's more qualified?
Right. So the lectures were very well received in all the places that he went. So he returned to Egypt that October 1923. Let's fucking go. We got stuffed because they still hadn't even opened the sarcophagi.
Oh, really?
At this point, yeah, they hadn't because it just takes so damn long to do anything.
Yeah.
So he went into this with high hopes of really hoping to continue the work based on the agreement that Lady Carnarvon and the Antiquities Service had signed. So that restricted Carter's work to the tomb itself, and the responsibility of the rest of the valley went back to the government.
Okay.
So there were political disagreements, meaning the Egyptian government was in literal upheaval. I don't exactly know what was going on. I don't have time to try to know what was going on. I just know that a new person was appointed. Now there's some weird shit happening.
Okay.
And they were like, no, you can't do this and you can't do that and you shouldn't, blah, blah, blah. So he was already facing issues with the press before he could even get the tomb opened for the year. And it was agreed that he would give a briefing to the Times and then another briefing at a different time to the Egyptian press so that the news could get to both locations at the same time. So they were staggered.
Yeah, makes sense.
But then you still have all the other news sources that are you're still hoarding the news. Like what?
Yeah.
It was very much protested by the international press. And then the Antiquities Service had a dispute over the extent of government supervision, which delayed the opening until November. So they've already been there a month and they haven't been able to do anything. And then Carter and the Antiquities Service disagreed about the amount of people that could come in to the tombs. And I was very confused about this because it almost felt like Carter was on the side of the visitors at this point. And I don't know if that's because maybe the visitors are giving them funding that they would need.
Possibly.
And the Antiquities Service is like, we don't want all those people in there. And Carter's like, you paying for this bitch? I don't know. But it almost seemed like in this situation, Carter was on the side of the visitors. Like he almost wanted them there. I don't know.
Okay.
But it got so heated that he was like, I'll just pull the team. I'll just pull them. I'll take my team and we will leave. And the Antiquity Service was like, no, we'll figure it out. He resisted other demands.
Confusing.
I know. It was a lot. I watched a lot of documentaries, and this one was very thorough, but almost in a way where I was like, I'm a little lost when it came to this.
Yeah, it was just too much information almost.
Yeah. And it was December 21st before they actually started working.
Wow, so they were there for
2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on January 3rd, they finally got to the freaking sarcophagus. It was discovered. It was opened. So the Antiquity Service complained that a Times journalist had visited the tomb without authorization and that no Egyptian inspector was present for the reopening of the tomb. I don't know why they have to have like an official person standing there for you to open it. So then the official opening was February the 12th of 1924. In the presence of all the important people needed to be there. A lot of politics, a lot of you can't do that because I said so kind of vibes going on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was on February the 12th. Then everything came to a freaking stop because the viewing, they had like a scheduled viewing and the Antiquity Service denied it. Carter was so mad, noon on the 13th, they just shut it down.
Wow.
Locked it up. So then he sued, and then they pulled his permit, but then, like, he sued again, and then he went on a lecture tour because it wasn't even in season anymore.
Yeah.
He got an honorary doctorate from Yale, so good for him.
Good for him, yeah.
He helped Lady Carnarvon sell the artifacts. I think he sold them to, like, they sold them to a museum or something like that.
Okay.
And then by December of the next year, he went back to Cairo, even though they were still dealing with this lawsuit. But by the time he got there, an entirely new Egyptian government had taken over.
Okay.
And they seemed to be more agreeable.
Okay.
So they came with new terms. Lady Carnarvon would have to return the artifacts back to the government, and they would give her any duplicates from the tomb. Okay. But if there was only one of the things, she could not take it.
You know what? And I feel like that is very fair because the Antiquities Office wants to keep the important Egyptian artifacts in Egypt. Makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the tomb was officially handed back on January the 25th, and then they actually got to work the rest of the 1924 season.
Well,
good for them.
Yeah.
Yep. So 1925 dig season, they returned in October. And they opened the sarcophagus, and then they did what modern archaeologists, I think, would throw up thinking about. They unwrapped him.
There. In the tomb. Oh my gosh, the feeling I just got, like, in my stomach. I got lightheaded.
It took
oh my god.
Days.
I got like tunnel vision just now. Oh my god. I'm so stressed out.
It took a couple days to unwrap him. And they were, again, very meticulous, documented everything. But they don't have the CT scanners like that we have now. So they just like unwrapped him. So they unwrapped him on November 11th. It took 4 days. And it contained 143 different amulets, bracelets, necklaces, and other things just on his body within his wrappings.
Wow.
And then they took him out piece by piece.
Oh my god, I just got like lightheaded again. Oh my god. No.
And
no.
then they restored the jewelry. Like not just like wiped it off, but like restored the jewelry. And I don't know how I feel about that, because like part of me is like, oh, you get to see it how it would have looked.
Mm-hmm.
But then the other part's like, leave it alone.
Yeah. No, I think that's also like a common theme in like restoration. I feel like we've talked about this before. Yeah. About something else. But like, at what point are you like preserving something for a long time and making sure that it can be viewed and studied for a long time versus erasing the history it's already experienced?
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
I think, I always think about the Castillo de San Marcos in Florida, in St. Augustine. They've done a really good job, because at one point they did have like water in the moat, but then they realized that it was making the points break off. Mm-hmm. So all they're doing is just enough work, because they don't have water in the moat anymore. They're doing just enough work to keep it how it is.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good middle ground. Mm-hmm. Because if they put the plaster on the sides like it used to have, there goes the history.
Right.
You know, I could see maybe doing a corner just to show maybe what it used to look like, but not the whole thing. Like, it's a weird balance you have to have.
And you have to think about just, like, the item itself, the context of everything. Like, it's not a whole blanket statement. It's definitely on a case-by-case basis, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And then they had the audacity to say that the body was in poorer condition than they hoped.
It's also 3,500 years old. And then you unwrapped it from its bindings and then tore it apart.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. That's what I thought. Uh-huh. Damn it. God, the 20s. Okay, so
at least they didn't eat him.
Next season. I hate that that's true. I hate it so much. I could have gone my whole life without knowing that, and then someone ruined it for me, and I can't. I just think about it randomly. Mm-hmm. That's why we don't have so many mummies.
Because they
got it.
They got it. About weird rich people. And made paint out of them. You heard
what was it, like an ashy brown? Like
it's called mummy brown. Was the name of the color, and they made paint out of mummies.
Oh my god, it makes me want to throw up.
Yep.
Oh, I bet that's
they were
a haunted
wild.
They had nothing else to do. These motherfuckers, remember, were going to Antarctica just because. Like, every time I see some wild shit and I look at the year and it says like 1911, I'm like, that tracks.
Yeah.
Like, it just tracks.
What else were they going to do?
Maybe social media is a good thing. It's keeping us from doing some dumb shit. Like eating mummies and painting with their corpses. Like, it does sound pretty metal, though. I'm not gonna lie.
That's the name of like a metal band. We eat mummies.
We. A mum cooterie board.
How dare you?
gyro cuisine, if you will.
Illegal. Arrested. I declare you under arrest. Those words coming out of your own mouth that I had to hear with my own damn ears.
Wait, would it be considered a rap?
You have to stop. Oh my god. You keep putting these horrible images into my brain.
I hate it so much. I'm so sorry. Oh, my abs. Wait, no, I just said a worse one.
No!
King Akin Num Num.
Oh my god, I'm gonna fall on the floor. Oh, now my abs. Oh my god, my stomach hurts.
Oh, shit.
How dare you?
I wish I was sorry.
I know you're not. Please don't be. Please don't be.
Okay.
Because we're both just like
All right.
wiping tears from our faces.
This next part. So the dig season in 1927. Just sobbing the rest of the time. Whew. Okay. We're gonna act like that didn't happen. So in the dig season, I need a drink, between 1927 and 1932. So obviously, guys, it's not continuous year. It's season after season after season.
Mm-hmm.
They worked on getting the other two rooms, the treasury, cleared out, and the annex are the two rooms that they had left. So in the treasury, they actually found 2 female fetuses. So they were more than likely the stillborn children of King Tut. I had no idea that 2 other little babies were in there. I know. He left behind no living, but he was married. So he left behind no living children, but he did have apparently 2 stillborn children.
Oh.
And it wasn't until 1929 that the room was cleared except for the shrines, because I guess they're just big as fuck.
Yeah.
And more political shit happened. Literally, I wrote more political shit happened. And it caused new negotiations to happen before they could remove the shrines. So they're doing the best they can. And it wouldn't be until February of 1932 that they could actually get everything out. It took them a decade to clear out these 4 rooms.
That's a really long time.
Yeah. And obviously, in today's standards, it would probably take less than half that time to clear out something like this. Now, with the technology that we have,
Mm-hmm.
they were using what they could.
Right.
So, there was a change of government in 1939. They wanted to have all of the pieces together, fair.
Mm-hmm.
So they ended up paying Lady Carnarvon just under £36,000 to compensate. And Carter ended up getting a quarter of that.
Okay.
So that's actually millions of dollars.
Yeah.
In like today's money. So, but the Lady Carnarvon estimated that they had spent £45,000 on the Egyptian excavation. Now, you've got to remember, I doubt that they lost money on this because they had sold those rights to the Times and they did other things to, make money.
And they were selling like other artifacts and...
Yeah. Yeah. So Carter, after this was done, Carter continued to go between Luxor and Kensington. He had literally built a house as close to the Valley of the Kings as humanly possible. Like, the house still stands. They are renovating it to look like how it did back then.
That's cool.
I watched a little documentary on it. I think it's in the show notes. Just start clicking. You'll find it. I'll try to find it for you. But I didn't get a lot of information out of that one other than the house still stands. It's really cool.
Okay.
And he made a trade for the Detroit Institute of Art, so he was still doing that, but he unfortunately fell into ill health, kind of like a depression. I think he lost his drive. He lost his, he found the thing, and then...
What do you do after that?
What do you do? Yeah, so on March the 2nd of 1939, he ended up dying from Hodgkin's disease at the age of 64. So yeah, his health was also declining as well.
Oh, I wonder if it was from breathing in thousands-year-old air. Because they didn't have air pumps or purifiers.
Nope. They were winging it.
Yeah.
He's buried at Putney Vale Cemetery, and he's got an epitaph on his headstone. And it has a quote from a cup found in King Tut's tomb. And I would like to read this to you. Let me regale you.
Okay.
May your spirit live. May you spend millions of years, you who love Thebes, sitting with your face to the north wind, your eyes beholding happiness.
Aww. I got goosebumps from that.
It's so sweet.
And how meaningful is it that it's from a cup that he helped discover?
Yeah.
Aww.
May your spirit live. And may your eyes be holding happiness. Just like... So, a number of items from King Tut's tomb were actually found in his house after he died.
Not surprised.
But they made its way back to where they needed to go.
Good.
And after World War II, apparently, because he died a month before World War II broke out. So they were like, we're just going to hang on to these for a while and then we'll send them over there when shit's
not wild and crazy.
So I've got one more tiny little section.
Okay.
And I would be remiss if I didn't mention it because I'm a spooky lady sometimes. So, the curse of the mummy.
Ooh.
Woo. So, it is said, and this is, I would like to say, last week I had no idea what I was going to talk about today. I decided to do what I normally do and just go on vibes. I opened up a book called, what is the book called? The Book of Unusual Knowledge. I just have it because I thought it was cool. Mm-hmm. So I opened it up and I was flipping through it and I saw something that said The Curse of King Tut's Tomb. And I was like, King Tut found the topic. It came to me in a book. So you're welcome, I guess. I don't know. So Carter apparently had been warned of the dangers of opening tombs, but he didn't believe in curses or hexes. He's a logical man, okay? He's an archaeologist. Yeah. So when they made their way through the tomb, they encountered, apparently, a statue of the god of the dead, Anubis. We talked about him earlier. And at the statue's feet, apparently there was a small brick inscribed in it was like a warning, probably to ward off robbers and such. And they're thinking this is probably where the idea of the curse came from. So apparently several men involved with the excavation died shortly after entering the tomb. Lord Carnarvon being one of them. He, I think, died the soonest after it was opened.
It was just like, a month or two, right?
Couple months. Apparently, as legend has it, not only did all the lights in Cairo unexpectedly go out for a moment the moment he died, but his dog dropped dead that morning too.
Oh no!
I know!
Oh, doggy!
And then apparently Carnarvon's younger brother died suddenly, like 6 months later.
Oh, no.
I don't think he had anything to do with the excavations, though. I think it was just weird.
I mean, it do be the 1920s.
Yeah.
So.
And apparently, Howard Carter's pet bird was swallowed by the same kind of cobra depicted on King Tut's mask.
Oh.
But also, the chances of that are very high. You're in the fucking desert.
Yeah,
like,
it's...
a
I
cobra.
can't imagine there's... Yeah.
It was probably depicted on the mask because of all the cobras.
That's what I was about to say. Like, I'm sure there's a lot of cobras in Egypt.
Yeah. So, 2 workers died after opening the tomb. More than likely, it was just malaria.
Okay.
Let's be honest here.
Yeah.
The conditions are not the best because it's just a brutal place to be.
Yeah. It's an African desert.
Yeah.
It's not a nice
chill
place.
6 out of the 26 explorers died within 10 years, is what the book said. I don't feel like those are just natural causes. I think after 6 months, it's natural causes after that.
Yeah.
It's life.
Yeah.
So, Egyptologists claim that mold spores and other kinds of spores, like in these tombs, is enough to make someone sick.
Absolutely.
Or die. Absolutely, 100%. I'm gonna leave us on a funny note. Not morbid funny, thankfully, again. So in the 1970s, the mask was displayed in San Francisco. And the guard that was on duty had a mild stroke while on duty, and then later claimed that it was the curse of King Tut that gave him the mild stroke and tried to get compensation for it. Unsuccessfully.
I don't think that's covered in the contract there, buddy.
No.
Excuse me, sir, what is the cause of your injury? Why are you seeking damages? Supernatural causes. It was King Tut's mask.
King Tut gave me a stroke. So that's it.
That's so cool. Yeah, thank you for covering this. I had no idea about... I think I've heard of his name, but because I read about this excavation, but it was just like, maybe a paragraph, nothing about the man himself.
I feel like that's why when I told you, off recording that it was a classic, but come at from a different angle, because we all know about King Tut. Of course we do. Yeah. And I think it's really interesting to think about, like, the fact that he is so popular is because he was such a low-level pharaoh that he got forgotten about. Yeah. And that's why we know so much about him.
Well, and all of his stuff was in his tomb as well,
Yeah. It's the only reason that he is as, important to us, or as well known to us, is that he was forgotten in antiquity. Yeah. But who's the guy that dug him up? Literally, when I saw the, title, Curse of the Mummy or whatever, I was like, cool. Oh, I can cover King Tut. I don't know if there's enough there for me enough that the world doesn't already know. Who was it that found him again? What was his... I didn't even know his name. off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
But I know his discovery, and I feel like that's not okay. He worked from the time he was 17. He was in Egypt for like 50 years.
Yeah, which is a long time. Well,
so long.
Yeah, thank you for covering this. I learned so much.
You're welcome. I'm glad. I'm glad you learned.
This is a very fascinating episode. And thanks, Howard Carter.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you, Howard Carter. Thank you, Lord Carnarvon, for giving him one more year.
He needed one more week, right?
Yeah.
Like
he needed 3 days. Okay, just let him go. Pay the tab for him to get on the boat and just let him go.
You know, if it was a movie, it would have been like the last day. Like, it has been 364 days. Tomorrow's our last day. And it would have found out like hours before they're supposed to leave. And it was like, no, we have found it. That's actually happened. A similar thing happened to my sister and her boyfriend as they were digging. It was like the last day of their digging. And it wasn't like they were like, no, we must continue. Like, her boyfriend just like stumbled upon like an entire ass graveyard. Like, burial site on the last day.
What do you do? Like, do you close it? Like, do they have seasons like that? Like, what?
No, I think, because the way that their companies work is that they just, like, it's mostly for, like, surveying. A lot of times they'll go out and, like, if someone's gonna build something, they, like, make sure there isn't anything below, or if someone finds something, they go, I don't know all the intricacies of their company, but I think what they said in that instance is they were able to get like an emergency extended contract for just like another maybe up to a week, and they'd been out there for like 2 months or something.
Oh my god.
And then I think like the next crew that came in like picked up where they left off, maybe. I'm not 100% sure, but they were telling me like, oh yeah, on our last day, like, we're literally packing up and he had to go and like find a whole ass burial mound. And then we had to go dig up all these skeletons, and it was from like the Roman era.
What the fuck?
Yeah. They find Roman, just like casual Roman bodies and coins all the time.
Oh, again, I have gone to archaeology school. I'm so jealous.
I know, they have the coolest job. It kind of, like...
It's not too late.
It's not too late.
I could make Nick homeschool the kids and we'll just all pack up and go.
Yeah, there you go.
That would be a disaster. Yeah. That's... Could you imagine? Like, almost at that point, you would dig it up and you're like,
that's kind of how it's like, well, shit. Okay. Well, we got all these bodies now. We've got to dig up.
Can't ignore it now.
No.
No, could you imagine being that kid and just like, he was just like a water boy. So he was probably just carrying like buckets of water, and he tripped. And he's like, oh, that's awfully square. And then it's a whole ass step.
Well, let's find out where this leads, boys.
And they were next to these huts that had been there for decades, for years. They were just
right there,
eating dinner next to King Tut this whole time.
I had no idea.
No idea. Wild. We should probably tell these people our socials.
Yeah, let's do that. It's been a minute. Yeah.
Okay. You can find us on Facebook,
Ill-Equipped History Podcast group and page.
Instagram,
at Ill-Equipped History.
TikTok,
at Ill-Equipped History.
Gmail,
Ill-Equippedhistory at gmail.com.
And Patreon.
Patreon.com/Ill-Equippedhistory. Sign up for our $5 monthly tier where you get stickers and a bonus episode.
Stickers and bonus episode. And maybe a doodled card from me. I'll doodle you something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a nice little personal touch there.
We're hoping to have even more options in the future, so you don't want to miss those.
Yeah, we were just talking about it before we started recording. Like, what are some extra little goodies that we can provide our Patreon members? So we will announce those at some point.
When that happens.
Yeah.
We have a goal we want to meet first, so,
So the sooner you sign up, the sooner you get the goodie.
Yeah, exactly. So, we're going to let you go. If you find a mummy,
don't eat it.
Don't eat it. You literally, I was about to say that. Do not eat it. Don't paint with it. Don't unwrap it in the tomb.
Just leave it alone. Call somebody.
Literally, you could call Ghostbusters for all I give a shit, but don't touch it. Don't
get cursed.
Don't get cursed. Don't breathe it in either. That sounds no bueno.
No, that's
don't do that.
That's how you get mesothelioma.
And you have to call those numbers on the commercials. Okay. Okay, we're gonna go.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, bye.